Practical Wellness Radio. I'm your host, Ted, and today Coach Cody and I are joined by Austin Nedelcoff. Austin is head coach and owner of Kilo 2 in Iowa City. We talk a lot about, all the difficulties that it comes to running and operating a business and a gym. And Austin also competed in the CrossFit Open this year, where he advanced to quarterfinals and now advanced to semifinals. So that's a pretty big deal for anybody who is familiar with training and competing in the CrossFit space. And obviously, it takes a lot of passion and a lot of work to succeed in both running a gym successfully and competing in the sport of CrossFit also. And so today in our warm-up waves, we will talk a little bit about passion. And this is a quote from Dr. Hatfield. Dr. Fred Hatfield, was a major influence on the strength and conditioning community. At the age of 45, he squatted over 1,000 pounds. And this is just a quote of his about passion. It's not the commitment to excellence, rather it's utter disdain for anything less. It's not endless hours of practice, it's perfect practice. It's not the ability to cope, it's the domination of every situation in life. It's not setting goals. Goals too often prescribe performance limits, and it's not doing what it takes to win. It's doing what no one has ever done before or will ever do again. One quick plug before we get this show started here with Austin. If you guys haven't heard, we at Practical Wellness are running the Iowa City Weightlifting Summit. That is taking place on August 15th at Big Grove Brewery. If you're in the Iowa City area or close at all and you want to take advantage of learning a little bit more about weightlifting, we're planning a mock meet for that day. And it should be a great time with lifting heavy barbells, learning more about skill and weightlifting, and having a couple beers. So head on over to the website, practicalwellnesscoach.com. There you can get signed up for the newsletter, and we will be sending out more info soon on the Iowa City Weightlifting Summit. All right, we'd now like to welcome into Practical Wellness Radio head coach and owner of CrossFit Kilo 2, Austin Nedelcoff. Austin, thanks so much for jumping on with us.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
So we just let's hit the ground running, man. As we said, you're head coach and owner of CrossFit Kilo 2. For those that might not know, Kilo and Kilo 2 have a pretty big following and have had a lot of success in the CrossFit gym space and other spaces also. But let's just kind of start from here. How did you originally get into fitness? What's a quick fitness background? How'd you get into CrossFit? And we'll take it from there.
So I grew up playing a lot of sports, and naturally being in good shape was important with being successful within the sports, that I played. Grew up playing basketball mainly, and played a lot of golf, played football in high school. And so it was always fun to train for those sports. And then once I got into college, I played college golf at UNI for a little while. And throughout my time as a college athlete, our golf team, we were kind of forced into training for our sport. Most of my teammates didn't really enjoy it because they felt like it wasn't very important. And I always felt like it was because, back in the day, people thought of, golf as like this marathon, right? It's a 4.5 hour, 5 hour event. And so that's how my teammates thought of it. And then it's like, well, hold on here. We're actually trying to swing a club really, really fast, trying to be explosive, create a lot of power. And so being strong and explosive was very important. So, when we had to go in at 6 a.m. for our workouts, golf workouts, it wasn't that glamorous. We were working with the grad assistants, of course, obviously the head coaches, Jed Smith and those guys, they were mainly focusing with the football team.
Jed Smith is a high-level weightlifting coach. I actually got my USAW from him.
Yeah, he does a lot of work with USAW, or I know he does a lot of the seminars and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I took one of his seminars. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, he's coached a lot of Olympic lifters, and I mean, he's really good at what he does. But yeah, being UNI's strength coach, we were pretty lucky to have him as a strength coach, and he would relay information to the grad assistants to tell us as golfers, hey, that doing power cleans, doing power snatches, and back squatting, stuff like that is all very important. And I took it to heart. And on top of that, I also like to do my own training. Obviously, at the time, in college, it was just for looks, so I was just trying to do a bunch more sit-ups and push-ups and stuff like that. And then towards my end, right when I was about to graduate college, I was just flirting through YouTube, came across Rich Froning, and so that's how I was introduced to CrossFit back in 2010.
What year is this? Okay, all right, yeah.
And so you obviously saw his stuff, saw Graham Holmberg win the games in 2010, and just started YouTubing a little bit of it. And I'm like, wow, this stuff's pretty cool. It's like an all-inclusive strength and conditioning sport, and that's when I started to get into it. And then I at the time then I was working as a server at Texas Roadhouse, and one of the servers that I worked with was a member at CrossFit Kilo. Mm-hmm. Her name was Jordan Weichert. She's a really good Olympic lifter. She was actually number 2 in the nation for her weight class for a little while. And she's like, hey, you should try out CrossFit Kilo. They're a local gym. They're just getting back from the games. And I'm like, wow, this all sounds so cool. I was still so, young with everything with CrossFit. I had been doing it a little bit on my own, but wasn't really introduced to a box at that point.
Sure.
Then the rest is history. I found Kilo and just kind of dove in head first with Armin and all those guys.
Yeah, I want to get into that, but I want to backtrack you if I could. Did you see like a big change in your performance as it related, to being a golfer after you started lifting weights?
Can you say that again, Cody?
Did you see like a big performance increase when you started lifting weights, when you were kind of focusing on golf as your primary sport at UNI?
Yeah. I mean, I was lucky, in high school, we had a fairly good strength and conditioning program. But there was definitely an increase in performance with golf. That was your question, right?
Yep.
So, I had experience with some Olympic lift variations. Squatting was obviously big, bench pressing, different exercise like that. But with my golf game, I immediately noticed I was driving the ball further off the tee. That was obvious. I felt so much more powerful with the driver in my hands. Just the speed that I was able to increase my club head speed was super noticeable. And I wasn't ever the furthest hitter, but I can put it out there still out, beyond 300 yards. And for most people, that's pretty good. A lot of people would die to hit the ball 300 yards off the tee. Some people just have natural gifts with it. And, a lot of people can create power with the golf club in a lot of different ways. Some people are super flexible and have a huge swing arc. Some people who are a little bit more stout, just can use their body in a great way to create a lot of power. But I just had to rely on my athleticism because, I don't carry a ton of weight. So for me to create a lot of club head speed, I needed to be fast and use the muscles that I knew were strong and explosive. I have pretty good hips and stuff. So, but yeah, obviously all the lifts, that we did certainly helped with that.
And I even think I'm not a golfer. Let's make sure that's clear. All right. But, I feel like golfers are kind of the last people as it relates to a sport to get into the weight room to think about some of this stuff. And golfers a lot of times, especially older populations, and I think we could probably maybe make the assumption that there's a lot of back pain that's associated just based off of the rotation, right, of the sport.
Yeah, certainly.
Do you work or have you worked with golfers since being a golfer yourself? Do you try to push that when you see them, when you're out on the course? Are you trying to pitch them a little bit? Does that ever happen?
Cody, I don't golf very much myself anymore. You can say there's a little burnout throughout college and everything, but I'll play every once in a while. But what I did do is I went and got certified through the Titleist Performance Institute. And so I'm a certified fitness coach through TPI.
Awesome.
And they are really leading the way with getting more golfers introduced to strength and conditioning. And so you definitely see it now at the professional level, where more and more guys are, finding a strength coach, and they're trying to improve their athleticism and their club head speed, their power, all that stuff, because it matters, especially, on the fourth day, of a big tournament. I mean,
Right.
fourth day of a golf tournament, you run down a little bit more than you think. I mean, you spent the last 3 days grinding. It's a mental grind. So, being in a little bit better condition does help. But yeah, Cody, I do help a real small number of people. I've had, I think over the course of my time here coaching at Kilo 2, about 6 clients specifically for golf.
Yeah.
And,
that's great.
And so, which is awesome. Most of my clients are folks that just need help with staying fit to play, not necessarily to perform better, but
Sure.
we're talking folks, who are in their upper 60s, low 70s. They're like, hey, I want to play till I die. And I'm like, all right, well then let's make sure you're staying fit to swing the club. And that's, the main priority. And then if they come back and tell me, hey, Austin, I'm hitting the ball 10 yards farther this year after a winter of strength conditioning, I mean, that's like huge for me. It's like, wow, that's great, man. And so, yeah, it's fun because, they're definitely a different style of athlete versus, training a competitive CrossFitter or, somebody in high school getting ready for volleyball or football or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But-
Well, go ahead, Ted.
No, that's great. I would love to turn this into a golf podcast. I don't know if Cody wants to really do that. But,
I'm going to run out of questions real quick.
But yeah, I'm a guy who loves golf. I'm a guy who needs to get better at golf. I'm kind of still in that honeymoon phase. I got into golf later in my life, and it was kind of after it sounded like my timeline was really similar to yours as far as when I got into fitness and CrossFit. Also, that 2010, I remember watching Graham Holmberg, beat Rich Froning that same year. I was like, what is this stuff? But I'm also glad that you brought up the TPI stuff because that was kind of on my list here. I wanted to ask you about. Very, very intriguing thing. And I think if there's anybody out there that wants to, I mean, those that know golf, if you know of Bryson DeChambeau, you know that you can still put length on. I think so many golfers out there are just like, well, this is how far I hit it. This is how long I can hit it. That's who I am.
Right.
But I don't think you should, put yourself in that box. You have ability to kind of put some length still on, off the tee. So that's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what did that transition look like after you got into CrossFit? You got into CrossFit Kilo up there in Cedar Falls, Waterloo. When did you kind of take on that coaching aspect of it? And when did you kind of move up the ranks and eventually kind of become a head coach and owner of CrossFit Kilo 2?
So before I found CrossFit Kilo, I've always enjoyed coaching. At the time, I was a sophomore basketball coach for Cedar Falls High School, and I was also a 7th grade football coach. And so coaching wasn't new to me at that point. CrossFit was. So when I started at CrossFit Kilo, what that looked like for me was I was just the new guy on the block, learning the ropes of all these different skills and different variations of lifts, and I was being introduced to a lot. And the coaching staff up there at Kilo was top notch. Armin does a fantastic job up there, so I learned a lot from him. And then there just became more of a deeper passion for it. And Armin and I had always had a pretty good relationship up there as coach and client, and then eventually became teammates. And then, I just said to him, hey, dude, one day if you're ever looking to expand your business, I would be happy to jump in and, just kind of, spread, what we do.
Yeah.
And just kind of spread the brand. And he was all for it, and then, in 2016, we made it happen, had the gym baby CrossFit Kilo 2. So that's
Were you in Cedar Falls before that, or had you been elsewhere?
I was in Cedar Falls for a good amount of time. Well, I guess not a really long time, but for about 3 years. And then I moved away with, at the time was just my girlfriend. We're married now. My wife Meredith at the time had a job offer in the Quad Cities. It was her first job out of college. And I was like, I kind of see the writing on the wall. I'm not going to be a professional athlete with CrossFit or anything like that. So, I'm going to make the move with you. We moved down to Davenport, Iowa, which was my hometown growing up. And so we moved down there for a year. It was great. I trained at CrossFit Bettendorf. I was coaching at another gym in town called 1031 Fitness, and did some training there too. Obviously, both great communities. And then we found our way up in Iowa City once Meredith had applied for another job at the University of Iowa Hospital here in town. And then when I knew I was moving to Iowa City, I was like, well, what if I wanted to do my own thing? And that's when Armin and I just kind of re-met about that business venture, and then it happened. So.
Yeah.
What kind of steps did you take in that initial process? So you said, Armin, and you had a couple sit down conversations, and you knew you were going, or maybe you didn't know or whatever. Was there any like build up to it? Like, hey, if you do this, because I imagine, and you're probably the same way, Austin, if you're going to put your name out there and somebody's going to open a gym under the same name that, you've invested a lot of time in, there can't help but be a little hesitancy because you're so proud of your product and proud of what you've been able to build. So what did that conversation look like, and what hurdles did you have to, jump over to get to this point now?
There was a lot of investigating with, the business startup. Obviously, I had to do my homework and take a lot of guidance under Armin, but Armin and I's conversation were pretty short and sweet. He made everything seem a lot simpler than what I felt like they were going to be and what they actually were. And I think it was like that because he wanted me not to worry so much about, all the bad things that could happen. Instead, you just take one day at a time, move forward, and, you're going to learn things as you go. And that's kind of how it went. He told me, hey, find a space. And, I started looking around Iowa City, and I'm like, hey, you know what? There's not a whole lot near the downtown area. So maybe that's a good spot. There's a lot of traffic. I think word will spread quick. And then, it's just crossing one bridge at a time. But the main thing, that I can thank Armin for is just helping me get over the fear of failure, perhaps, and just pushing forward one day at a time and not getting ahead of myself. And, a lot of good lessons were learned from him.
Yeah, that's great. I was kind of there. I have a similar story too. And you might not know Austin. I've told it, I think, a little bit on the podcast before, but, so I was a general manager of a CrossFit gym. Previous owner was in his mid 60s, very just kind of meh about it, right? He had another full-time job, was not investing any financial time into it, any time into it. And so I just kind of approached him. I was like, hey, I love this place. I'd like for it to grow a little bit more. I'd love to just be a part of that conversation and how we can grow it more. Right. Yeah. He said back to me, well, have you ever thought about owning it? And I was like, well, maybe in pipe dreams, but that's about it. And so that kind of started the whole thing for me. And you're right. There's a lot of ways to make it a lot harder than it can be. But when it comes down to it, it's day by day, just like you said, and it's just being able to be there for your clientele, being there for your staff. I mean, that's the number one thing that you can do, right? And so sounds like, it wasn't a super crazy transition, although I know it really probably was, right? I think
it certainly was.
Looking back, it's always easy to kind of downplay it, but I know that you probably put a lot of work into it at the time. Tell me a little bit briefly on, what it looked like in the first stages, and I know it's always a continuing thing, about growing your staff and developing your staff. I think there's probably a number of coaches that maybe listen to this, and what does that look like as far as getting good people on the floor to represent your gym, much like, you kind of came through the ranks also.
So one of the things that I learned from Armin was, he said, if you can grow within, try to do that as much as you can. And I'm a big believer in that because if you get to know your clientele really well, like I do, I know every single one of my members, and as you see a lot of people develop, a passion that you can relate to, because both of you have coached in the business, and when you see certain people show the love for what's going on inside the gym. You just kind of put the ball in their court and let them dribble around for a little while with the idea. And if they come back saying, yeah, coaching is something that I'm interested in, it's like, okay, this is somebody that I know can get better as a coach. This is somebody that wants to do it. This is somebody the other members already know. And they love what they do first and foremost. So that's definitely the number one thing on my list is when hiring, coaching, and developing them is trying to do it from within.
There's that trust already there, right? When you hire from within, and then, it sounds like you're giving them that opportunity and even room to grow, right? And it has to be their choice.
Yeah.
Ultimately as well. And then that's going to create a much better coach, a much more engaged coach, a much more articulate and skilled coach ultimately.
Since I've opened the gym here, there's definitely been some people that I know would have been great coaches, but they just didn't think it was for them. And, they just told me straight up, yeah, I don't really want to do this right now. I only have, an hour or two a day aside from all the other stuff I have going on. And I want that time for me to train, and, which is super respectable. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing too, is, when you have relationships with your people, they'll be honest with you, and they'll tell you right up front, hey, I don't know if I can swing it, as a coach and as a client or as an athlete both, and, be able to give it 100%.
That's true. I like that. I've kind of had, again, similar conversations, and something that I always like to bring up, and I'm sure you probably do this in those conversations, is, something that it's important to remember, maybe not in the initial kind of conversation, but when you're having these conversations with maybe a potential coach who's already a member and growing within, and I love that too, is, hey, when you become a coach, you are always kind of a coach, right? It's you miss out a little bit on the opportunity and the pleasure it is to just show up and leave, right? When you're a coach, even when you're jumping in classes, you're no longer really a member, right? You're still representing Austin. You're still representing Kilo 2. What does that conversation look like? And maybe as you kind of talk us through that, is there a handful of like traits that you're really looking for in maybe somebody to grow as a member into a coach? Just 2 or 3 traits that, are attractive to you as an owner and head coach.
Yeah, well, so going off traits, obviously the first thing I look for is their consistency with their own training. If somebody is showing up to the gym consistently and shows that they love what they're doing here, that's the first thing, is that they want to do this for the long haul, and they really enjoy health and wellness, and they're demonstrating, the things that I find to be very important besides just the exercise. Good habits with nutrition, good habits with, just with their lifestyle. So that's the first trait. The second thing that I like to look for, obviously, is ability. I'm not going to lie to you. I want my coaching staff to be able to do the vast majority of things that we're trying to teach people. And if I have a coach that doesn't know how to squat properly, or doesn't want to learn how to squat properly, then that's an issue. So ability is definitely something I look for. With that, usually that person's going to have a lot of experience with the fitness, and so that's good. It's like, all right, they've been doing this for a while. They probably know how to correct some things for themselves. That gives them a better chance to help other people correct some things too. So
they have that base level
those are a couple.
Understanding, right, in that process.
Yeah, exactly. Just the general understanding, like, just being knowledgeable of what you're doing. I know you guys both know this, but you probably have had some members for a long time who still look at the whiteboard and they'll look at TTB and not know that it means toes to bar. You can't have that when you're hiring somebody. So obviously knowledge is a big key factor too. But those conversations, are pretty simple. It's as simple as, hey, listen, you're going to be representing, the brand. You're going to be building relationships with people. You're going to be, portraying this image of a coach now. So that means you're a reflection of the business. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to when you're in the gym, be be a good person, be polite to everybody, even if some people are coming off as, jerks, perhaps. Like, hey, you got to bite your tongue and you got to be the bigger person, and those are easy conversations. People either want that responsibility or not. And if they don't want it, it's a simple choice of, okay, you're not cut out for this.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. How would you handle there's multiple options and multiple scenarios here that we could dive into, but say you do have, let's say you do have maybe a member who has shown interest in coaching and wants to be a part of your team, and they have maybe, let's say, 2 out of 3 of those traits that are ideal to make them an ideal coach, but let's say they're maybe lacking in the even people skills, right? Mm-hmm. Is that something that you have tried to develop and succeeded or failed, or, tell me, and that's just an example, like people skills, or maybe even we can use the other option of maybe not a super skilled mover yet. Yeah,
I have failed. There have been some members of mine that, I thought, hey, with some help, I think that you can become a good coach. Is this something that you would want to do? And their first answer is yes. And so it's like, okay, we'll go through like a coach's training where I'll meet with them once to twice a week. And I'll just put them in some situations where, like, okay, here, you need to teach this, or you need to help somebody get signed up for a membership. And if they are displaying, struggles after struggle after struggle, and it's like, hey, this is how you're going to, these are the progressions. This is how you go about doing this. If there's constant struggles with, I just, hey, this just doesn't seem fitting for you right now. We can maybe revisit this down the road, but I try to be honest with them if I don't feel like it's going to work. Otherwise, it's just a lot more time for me trying to help somebody become something that at the end of the day may not pay them the money they're looking for with how much more training is needed.
Do you struggle with some of those like tough conversations? I know like when I owned a gym in the past, we had, a coach specifically that just wasn't working out. And, I'll be honest, I kind of like avoided it, I was like, or I'd like kind of be soft handed, and maybe not be as direct as I needed to be. Do you find that to be a challenge, or do you feel like that kind of comes naturally to you?
It comes naturally to me for everybody that's younger than I am. Anyone that's on my staff that's older than me for some reason, I struggle with it mightily. And so you can talk to Katie Dennison about this, but she is kind of like a big sister to me in a way where like she's as old as my sister is. Okay. And so it's hard for me to be like an authority figure to somebody like that. That's certainly a struggle of mine. I've gotten better at it, but it is hard to tell somebody older than me the brutal truth of something, for example. Like,
no, I don't disagree with that whatsoever. I ran into again such a similar scenario. I took over the gym. The gym had pre-existing coaching staff, and there was a coach who was older than me and more experienced than me, but not what I felt was adequate coach at the time, right? Mm-hmm. And to sit down with somebody like that when I'm first starting out and first running a business, I was so nervous. I was like, I just gotta do it and say it and cut and run. But I don't know. I consider myself a somewhat compassionate dude too, and it's not easy. So I think so many times people think about gym ownership or coaching, and they're like, oh man, it'd be so great to be a coach and you can work out whenever you want and you can have the gym to yourself and you can do all these things, but it's still a profession just like any other profession. And there are hard things that come with work, right? It's still work.
Yeah. It's at the end of the day, it's a business, and sometimes I forget that, in an environment like this, as much fun as we have with our jobs and as much as how close we are with each other, it's hard to tell somebody, hey, you got to get this done. It's on the list of things to do. So sometimes, you've got to be blunt about it when you don't want to be, but again, it's part of the business and just has to be done sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it's a relationship business. Being a coach, being a gym owner, it's about relationships, and you build these strong bonds, especially with people that have been around for a long time. And that doesn't mean people are immune from like slipping up or, making bad choices and even like progressing in a way that's different from where you're progressing. And you got to, have that conversation with them. Be like, hey, like this isn't working anymore.
Right.
Right. And that's tough. That's really tough. I want to talk about, if we can, unless you got something else, Ted.
Oh yeah. I guess before we kind of transition here, one more thing, you've been coached, sounds like for, better part of a decade now. That's kind of right where Cody and I are, timeline also. And what before we transition away from maybe the coaching and ownership process and profession, what still excites you, Austin? When it comes to like owning a gym or standing on the gym floor coaching a class, like what are you looking forward to, tomorrow or next year or 2 years from now? What's in your back pocket and what excites you?
I am always excited about seeing our gym improve. I don't really know how to explain this, but when we first opened, we opened up in a little tiny paint store. All right. And then it was like, okay, next month I have the goal of removing this office room to make a little bit more space. I have the goal next year of removing this wall to expand the gym, make it a little bit bigger. So constantly improving the gym for our members is always on my mind. And whether that means saving up money to help improve our space or buy more equipment, that is always motivating for me. And then the obvious one is seeing my people continue to improve. I'm lucky and unlucky to be in such a transient position in Iowa City. We get a lot of college student turnover. So, one semester I have a big group of college kids, and then, in about 5 days, they're all going to be finishing up finals, and 50 of them are moving home for the summer or just going and finding their first job. And so the next year I'll get a new wave of college kids in. So, what that looks like for me is I get a whole new crop of kids to try to improve, teach this CrossFit thing to them, teach them some wellness habits that are important as they're, move into their young adulthood. And everyone that's leaving me, hopefully I left a positive impact. So, it's motivating for me to set good examples. And when people leave this place, they'll take with them a lot and remember, what they learned at Kilo 2.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's that longevity-based mindset. You know that maybe some of these people aren't going to be there that long, but what can they take with them,
Right.
when they're gone? I think that's powerful. But I do want to transition, and I know that you had mentioned earlier it's challenging to, put energy into, being a coach, and in your case, being an owner and a coach, but also maybe even keeping up with your fitness. And I know that you've done really well. You're a pretty fit guy. Let's be honest here. Right. And I was looking up, I went to the games website today and I was like, let me see some dates here and correct me if I'm wrong, but you've been to regionals 3 times.
Yep.
And is that individual or a team?
That was all 3 of those were on a team.
On the team. And then you went to the games once as a team then?
Yep.
In 2015?
Yep. 2015 was my first games experience, and I competed with Armin and Luke, and then Armin's wife Sarah, and then 2 other gals that were up at Kilo at that time. One still's there, Kate, and I think Megan's still floating around there. She does a lot of work and travels a lot, but yeah. This year a little different because I went the individual route. So
that's where I was headed. So, and I'm a little lost in the structure. I'm not as close as I used to be. You made it so. You had the Open this year, and then it was quarterfinals. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then now it's semifinals, right?
Yeah. So basically the structure now it's a very neat structure. From the Open, they take, the top 10% of athletes and put them into this quarterfinal scenario. And so this year there was about 6,000 to 7,000 guys that were in this quarterfinal scenario for North America. Mm-hmm. And then from there, the top 120 athletes in North America advanced to the semifinals. And it's all based on how many people signed up in the Open to begin with. So Europe, not as many people signed up as North America. So they're going to have about, I think it was like 80 people advance to these semifinals. Yeah. I think there's only 2 over in Europe, whereas North America has 4. But the best way I would describe it is semifinals are like the old regionals. There's just not as many of them. So I know back in 2018 and prior regionals, there was about, I want to say like 7 or 8 regions. You had like the North Cal, or you had the West Coast, you had South, you had East, you had the Central, you had the Northeast. I mean, there was a little bit more, but now there's only four regionals basically. They call them semifinals now. So for me, that was my goal this year, was to try to qualify to a semifinal. And let me tell you, it took everything I had at a quarterfinals. That was a very, very trying weekend. And I'm looking at the list of names on there, and I'm scrolling down, and athletes from 1 all the way to 1,000. I could pick out some names in each one of those. From 200 to 400, from 500 to 600. I could pick out a name of a former games athlete, a former regional athlete. So it was pretty stacked with. And when you think about it, it's like that makes sense, because you're talking about the entire United States, you're talking about Mexico, and you're talking about Canada.
Yeah.
So
what's it feel like?
There's definitely a big pool of athletes there.
What's it feel like to I'm assuming this is a pretty big deal for you, because you haven't qualified, I guess, to this level as an individual. Does that feel different than like even going to the games on a team?
Yeah, it does, because, in 2000 and all the way back until as long as I can remember from doing the Open, a big goal was, okay, can you make it to regionals as an individual? And I'll never forget, one of my buddies, Kyle Flickinger, made it to regionals as an individual in 2014.
I think I went there I saw him.
Uh-huh.
I went to that regionals to watch, and I remember.
Yeah, he was one of like 2 or 3 guys in the whole world to finish that chipper workout. I mean, I think he beat Rich Froning on it. It was a big deal for him. And to watch him do that and compete as an individual, that definitely lit a fire for guys like me and Luke Schaefer. Armin had obviously done it before, because he was a games athlete as an individual back in 2011. But in 2015, 16, 17, and 18, I was always on the other side of the fence by like 10 to 15 places. And in those days, the top 30 athletes would make it to the regional as an individual. And at the end of the 5 weeks, I was always sitting at number 34, 35th place, 36th place, year after year. And so to get over that hump was a big deal for me. I'm not a huge fan of the online setting, because I don't know how fast everybody else is going. It's hard to be a gamer in that setting, but there's some other thing. I put in some extra work this year with a lot of weaknesses that I think really helped me get over that hurdle. So it was pretty awesome to make that cut. I mean, from here on out, I have no expectations of what my semifinal is going to look like, because this is the first time I'm doing it. So
yeah, we'll
see what happens.
Good luck. We'll be watching.
Yeah, good luck to you, man. And as a fan of the sport and a fan of the methodology, what were some of those weaknesses, and what were some things that you did to attack them, just briefly?
So going back to training at CrossFit Kilo 2, we had a pretty extreme competitor program, and a lot of people can speak on this, but my coach Armin writes some gnarly stuff from time to time, and I would do about 95% of it. The one thing that I always neglected was long endurance training. So if anything that involved something on a machine like a rower or a bike, or if I had to go run, and if it took longer than 10 minutes, I didn't do it. I was like, no, I'm not doing this. Don't need to. I'll be good enough without it. And after coming up short, I'm like, you know what? All these guys that are really good are doing this stuff, and they're making sure that they're hitting their longer endurance training and making themselves more aerobic. And I'm like, you know what? I have to do this. As much as I hate it, as much as I hate sitting on a rower for, a 10K, I need to do it. And so I told myself, no matter what Armin writes, no matter what gets programmed for long endurance training, I'm sucking it up this year, and I can full-heartedly say that it's totally paid off. Like, I've made big improvements this year with it.
Yeah, I think the sport reaches kind of a point where, you know, a guy like you, Austin, you have the foundations, you have the fundamentals, you can do toes to bar, you can do bar muscle ups, you can back squat, whatever. And that is kind of definitely like the buzz right now in this training space is zone 2 training, right? Like being able to just endure for longer periods of time and the return on benefit. I was right there with you. I didn't want to do anything over 12 minutes. But now I've kind of gotten to the point where I actually prefer the longer workouts. I either want to do strength work and rest for 3 minutes in between each set. Or
How old are you, Ted?
I'm 34.
Okay. Yeah. 34. So I just turned 30 this year, and I can attest to that exact same thing. I would prefer workouts to be longer now.
Yeah.
And I'd rather just, okay, let's find out who can just kind of sit in that zone and just grind for a while versus putting the hammer down for 90 seconds and ripping Fran. Like that to me is like, I can do it. Like I have no issue doing it, but
you just know how much it hurts. It's a different type
I don't like going into that extreme pain cave after doing this sport for 10 years. You know, I'd rather just find out like, all right, work capacity versus sheer intensity. Like that just
isn't that interesting?
Because you know exactly how it's going to feel versus the rookie. The rookie's like, oh, I've never done this workout before.
Yeah.
I'm going to go as hard as I can.
I remember when we first had access to an assault bike, and I was probably 20, let's say 26, right? Like once a week we would do 50 cals for time. Or we do like a 20 or a Tabata on the assault bike. Now I have one of those in my garage and I've had it for over a year. I've never tested a 50 cal on it. I've never done a Tabata just because I know how much that hurts now, right?
You know, I turned 30 this year as well, and I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm like, I have no desire. Like for my, run club, just the other day we did 400-meter sprints, as a test. I'm like, this is the last. I'd rather go run like a 5K, a hard 5K, than do this right now, even though it lasts like a minute or whatever. I just have. I just know I've done it too many times now to where I'm like, I'll do it. I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna say some bad words in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's something that you do to balance the two, right? We've talked about you owning the business, being a head coach. We've talked about your, personal goals. It's both of them are full-time jobs, right? They both really, really are. And there are people that are struggling to do just one of those things as a full-time job, right? And you see people trying to make it to the games and that's their only goal and they fail. And we see people trying to run a successful gym and that's their only goal and they fail. How are you managing to do both of them successfully?
So, the first thing I knew I had to establish was a good business and making sure that was always number one. It still is. Even right now, making sure that my classes are running well, making sure that, we're doing things by the book in the gym. That will still be number one, even as I finish out this season. But knowing, before I opened the gym, how close I was to this individual level, for what we're talking about, this semifinal level. I knew I wasn't far off. It mainly came down to me and my discipline with improving some weaknesses. That's been the balancing act, Ted, is, just having the right discipline and knowing what my priorities are. My priority number one is business is first. And then, okay, hey, I have this time and this time to train. And if I don't take advantage of those times, too bad. That's on me. So, discipline is what's guiding me right now. And I can either make my mind up and get my training done when I know I have time to do it. Otherwise, it's just going to have to take the back seat.
Are you coaching a lot of floor hours still, or have you given a lot of that responsibility to your coaches?
So once I got my invitation, I did pass off a little bit of that responsibility. I still am coaching, 4 to 5 hours a day, whether it be, for the class or with a one-on-one client. But in comparisons to what I was doing before, quarterfinals, it is a little bit less. In fact, this month, one of the things that I'm selfishly doing is I'm not opening the gym this month at all, which in the past, I usually open the gym almost every day. So 4 a.m. wake-up call, and then, getting here by 4:30 to make sure 5 o'clock class is ready to go. That was something that's usually in my daily routine. But now, with knowing how my body can feel with that extra 2 to 3 hours of sleep is pretty crucial. And I told myself, you know what, if you're going to accept this invitation and represent Kilo 2 as an individual and give it your all. And you need to give it your all. So that means you need to be eating as clean as you can. You need to be sleeping and recovering as well as you can. Obviously training hard. That's something I know, that's a given, but the other things really do matter if you want to go perform your best. And you guys remember last year when everything got shut down with the quarantine?
Yeah, absolutely.
March 17th.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So March 17th hit, and then it was like, all right, the gym shut down. Well, I don't have to open the gym tomorrow. I get to sleep in. And I still would come into my gym, obviously, make sure all my utilities were working, water's running, things like that, just basic stuff. But I would still train too. And it didn't take much more than like a week of my training, and my strength numbers just spiked. And I'm like, what is this from? I'm not doing anything, that crazy. Like me and a couple buddies, we were just doing some strength training. But I was starting to tap into some numbers that I had never tapped in before. And I attributed it all to me getting 10 to 11 hours of sleep. Like I'm sleeping until 9, going in training at 11. And so me remembering that, I'm like, I'm going to feel so much better throughout my training as if I get really good sleep. And it's definitely paying off. Been feeling good throughout training. So.
Well, that's good. And as a coach and a business owner, a CrossFit gym owner, you've earned that sleep, right? So this last year that you've been able to sleep in, trust me, like I was right there with you. I actually really preferred to open the gym and coach those early morning classes. There's something to be said about at 10:30, you've worked for 5 hours already, and you can kind of work out, and that's your early lunch, and you just feel a little bit ahead of schedule of the day. And I always thought that was kind of a rewarding feeling. So you definitely, go ahead.
Well, 100%, I agree. Like you said, having that 5 to 6 hours worth of work done when so many other people are just starting their day, I just feel like I'm living my life like to my fullest. I'm getting things done. I'm getting after it. And I agree. I love opening. I love being with that early crew because, how much discipline do they have to, show up every day for that 5 a.m. class? It's inspiring for me to make sure I'm up, ready to go with them.
So you did a good job of segueing kind of what we want to talk about next, but I unsegued it. So I talked about something else. What I wanted to talk about is, what does the gym look like now post quarantine, post shutdown? What do your numbers look like? You have you talked a little bit about the transient clientele that you guys host there being in a college town. Just kind of briefly touch on what the gym life looks like now in 2021.
Right now it's looking like it did in 2019, before, all of that hit and, unfortunately, wreaked havoc on a lot of businesses. At first it did to us as well. We lost about half of our membership within a week of the whole quarantine starting. And so since we were allowed to open back up, it's been about a year now. We've been slowly rebuilding our numbers. So we're back to what we were before, which is, a real positive in my mind. And obviously it's helpful that, darn near everybody I know is, got the vaccine and everything and feels comfortable engaging, in different environments now. And so there's a lot less fear with people wanting to, try CrossFit, which is good. I want people to get out and do stuff and be living and whatnot. But, there certainly was a struggle there, last summer and heading into the fall. Obviously, a lot of students at the university, they're in these programs that aren't allowing them to go and participate in something like a gym membership. They have to, they're basically signing and say, hey, you can't go anywhere and do these certain things. Otherwise you're putting everybody else in the program at risk. So, I had to deal with a lot of that and which that's unfortunate. Obviously, you want people to, be involved in as much as they want to be involved in, but, obviously this year was definitely presented a lot of challenges with that.
Yeah. I mean, it has been such a, for a lot of reasons, unfortunate, 12 to 15 months or more, even for people. But, you always, your job as a gym owner is to, find the silver lining, find the positive outlook. And I think a lot of people will hopefully who maybe wouldn't prior to this, start to put a little more investment into their health and wellness. And guys like you are here for that. Guys like us are here for that. But we're going to try to wrap things up here in just a bit. Before we do, we always close out the interview with some closeout questions. So we have those for you. And before we kick those off, Austin, do you have anything that you want to plug? CrossFit Kilo 2, anything personally? What else? What other kind of services do you guys offer there?
We offer more than just CrossFit. That's obviously our main operation with the group class, but we do offer personal training if that's something you're interested in. We have several experts that can help you with improving your nutritional habits. And so, I encourage anyone who's willing to take a shot at, improving their lifestyle to walk in our doors and just talk with me or another staff member, and we'll point you in the right direction. 860 South Capitol Street, near downtown Iowa City, Iowa. That's where you can find us.
Do you have a podcast as well?
Yeah, we do. It's the Kilo Train podcast. We have, I think, 16 or 17 episodes on there, and that it definitely slowed down once the two other hosts moved away. So, when Luke went off to medical school, that made things hard because I've done a couple episodes without them, and it's just harder to do, because I like to include them, but I'm going to try to keep that podcast going. So yeah, check that out. You can find it on Spotify or something. It's just Kilo Train podcast, and find some good stuff in there.
And then when's semifinals? What's the date on that?
Yeah, so my semifinal out in Knoxville, Tennessee is May 28th through the 30th of May. So 3 weeks I'll be going to compete.
Awesome. 3 weeks, keep sleeping. All right, Cody, question one, go for it, man.
All right, so it's kind of a two-parter here. So what's your favorite music just to listen to? Like, what do you vibe with? And then the second part is, what's your favorite music to listen to when you're working out, but when you're by yourself, like you have full control?
Okay. My favorite music to listen to, I'm a big fan. I mean, it's hard for me. You guys know this. You have members of your gym who all like different genres. So I've gotten to learn I love country music. I love rap music. I like rock and roll. I can listen to it all. I like to listen to U2. If I'm just kind of vibing by myself, I can listen to U2 for anything. Driving in a car, I can listen to them working out. I can listen to them at my house if I'm, just cleaning up. So really big fan of U2. Big fan of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and a big fan of Kid Cudi. He's my favorite rapper growing up.
All right.
Now, if we're just talking working out, that's a tricky one, because if I'm trying to pick up something heavy, I want something pretty aggressive. Yeah. Like something from Hatebreed or something heavy like that. But if I'm looking for, like, if I got to go on a long 10K run or something like that, I'm looking for something a little bit softer, something that's not going to really spike my heart rate. Just some simple country music,
I hear you. It was tough for me sometimes as a gym owner to do the like heavy aggressive. I don't know. I didn't like always my clientele seeing that side of me,
Right. I know. Same here.
You're supposed to be true to yourself. You're supposed to be who you are, but like, I don't know. Maybe I don't like who I am that much sometimes.
Right. I'll only put it on when I absolutely have to. Like there was, it was funny story real quick. It was quarterfinals, and we had to do this 4-rep max front squat. Right. And, and I'm in the middle of my sets. I'm about to my last set, and I'm pretty juiced up. I'm feeling good. And whatever music was on was just, some pop, and then all of a sudden it switches over to I Will Be Heard by Hatebreed, and then everybody just starts looking around like, oh, Austin's about to lift, and then it got pretty aggressive. So it's kind of a big change of pace for people and throws them off. But
it does.
When it has to be done, it has to be done.
It does. So do you have a favorite CrossFit benchmark workout?
Yeah, Elizabeth. It's 21-15-9 power cleans and ring dips.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's good. Yep. And I'm glad that you clarified the power cleans to squat cleans. That was a conversation that we always had. It's a very
if you're squat cleaning that workout, that's a game changer.
That's different.
Very
that's a different workout.
That was the first benchmark workout that I'd ever done, and it was one that was actually really good for me right from the get go. So that was always in my head as my favorite. I'll repeat that one. Anytime somebody wants to.
What's the weight on that for RX? I'm trying to remember.
135.
Okay.
So not too heavy. Just
what was the first benchmark you ever did, Cody?
That's a good question.
While you think about it, I think the first one I ever did was Karen.
Okay.
Tough one to start on.
It was just repeated motion, right? And it just, you're buried in this hole. And now to this day, it's one of my favorites. I'm a tall guy, so you got to love Karen if you're a tall guy. You just have to. I
think mine was Angie, and isn't that the 100 pull-ups?
Yeah.
Or no, sorry. Is it the 5 rounds for time of like 20 pull-ups, 30 push-ups, 40 sit-ups? Okay, yeah, Barbara. I think it was Barbara then.
Yeah. There's built-in rest in it.
Yeah, there's built-in rest, like a 3-minute. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. What's your favorite movie? Just give me a movie recommendation right now.
Ooh.
Guy doesn't have time to watch movies.
I know. It's a tough question.
Semi-final athlete.
I'm in the middle of Band of Brothers right now. It's a mini series.
Oh, it's so good.
Kind of like a movie, but
so
that's something I would recommend. Pretty badass story about Easy Company, World War II. Kind of like a documentary. They just go back and recreate that of what Easy Company did in World War II. So that's pretty good that I'm watching right now.
Have you seen The Pacific?
I haven't yet. No, I've been told that's really good. So I'm planning on watching that after I get done with this.
Check it out. Check it out.
I'm excited for you. The Band of Brothers is one of my favorites. And yeah, Pacific's good too. All right. Build us the perfect sandwich. That's a change-up question.
What was the question?
Build us the perfect sandwich.
Perfect sandwich. Oh, wow. Okay. It'll involve, man.
It's the toughest question.
All right, I'm going with like a pulled roast beef. Okay, so just something that's shredded roast beef. Throw some pepper jack cheese on there. Throw some sauce on there of your choice, but as long as it's like a pound of roast beef that's just shredded up, throw it on a big hoagie bun. That's my favorite sandwich.
Just a hearty man sandwich.
Just a big beefy sandwich, yeah.
My mouth's watering right now. All right, so if you could earn enough wealth to retire tomorrow, what would you do for the rest of your life?
What I'm doing right now.
That's what I thought.
I don't know. I mean, that's the cool thing about my job is, if worst comes to worst, I don't even have to pitch a tent. I could go to sleep here in my gym, wake up and do what I love. So, money is, as you guys know, gym owners, depends on the gym owner. Most don't make a ton of money, but if I was given a lot of wealth, the only thing I would add on top of what I do is I would find a really nice country club, something to do, when I have a little 4-hour free time, maybe find a really nice golf club to go tee it up on.
There you go. So I'm going to move the order because, again, you gave us a great segue, and I already messed it up twice. What's the favorite golf course you've ever played on?
Oh, wow.
Again, this was a later question, but I had to throw it in there because you segued it so nicely.
I've been lucky to play a lot of really, really cool courses. Favorite golf course. Wow, that's tough. I'm going to have to just go with Crow Valley. It's Crow Valley is a course in Davenport, Iowa. I grew up on that course. My dad was the director of golf at Crow Valley Golf Club for 15 years. And it's recognized as definitely a top 10 course in Iowa. I know I've played on some courses that, might be a little bit more prestigious than that. Mm-hmm. But
some nostalgia to this one.
What's that?
Yeah, I'm sure there's some nostalgia to this one for
you. Yeah, it just has, that intrinsic value of, kind of like my first course, but it's a really it's a really beautiful golf course, and they can make it very challenging, and they you can also set it up where anybody can go out and play it and have success. So really good golf course down in Davenport.
All right, so this is gonna actually be the last one. You ready?
Yep.
What advice would you give someone who is nervous for any reason to start a structured fitness routine, whether that's CrossFit specifically or any other variation?
You need to, your time is very limited. So you need to you need to tell yourself that you're not always going to have tomorrow to start something. And, the sooner that you figure that out for yourself, the sooner you'll have the courage to walk into a gym or to contact a fitness professional like you guys and get something going, because, your time is running out. And I know most people look back on their lives and wish they had done something a little bit different. And for a lot of people, people wish they would have started taking care of themselves sooner. And I think the other, golden nugget with that is when you know that there's somebody on the other side of those doors that wants to help you, that should be reassuring for you to want to start even more. That, yeah, you want to do this for yourself, but somebody else wants this for you too.
Yeah.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Okay, cool down question time. info@practicalcoach.com. If you guys have a question, you can send it our way. We can answer it. We always do this on the final segment here of Practical Wellness Radio. And today we're talking about Memorial Day Murph. The workout itself kind of got its started through CrossFit. CrossFit puts out some, they're called hero workouts or benchmark workouts. And they're essentially workouts that are named after individuals who have kind of paid the ultimate sacrifice. So when we're talking about Memorial Day, I mean, that is a day of remembrance for men and women who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, fighting for the United States of America. And so that's why Murph, this individual, this workout has become very popular to do on this day. And it's a tradition. In a lot of gyms around the world, definitely in the United States, but even now it's kind of spread to globally. This Murph workout is pretty special. And we can talk a little bit about what the workout itself is, and then maybe Cody, you can tell us a little bit more about the individual. So the workout itself is it's a mile run. It's 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, and another mile run. Depending on how your gym does it or how you read it, you can partition the reps in between the runs any way necessary, and a lot of people do. And it's also encouraged if you have a 20-pound weight vest to wear that also.
Did you get the 300 squats in there?
Yeah, did I say that? I don't know if I did. But anyway, one more time. It's a mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and another mile run. And originally the workout was done by Murph, Lieutenant Murphy. I think he called it body armor, maybe even
Yep, that's correct.
Did it like up to weekly. Go ahead, Cody. You can tell us a little bit more about
Lieutenant Murphy. Murph was one of the first hero workouts. I'd have to fact check that. I haven't done that. But this was originally in 2005. That's when he was killed in Afghanistan. So June 28th, 2005, he was a Navy lieutenant, 29 years old, from New York. And this was kind of one of his favorite workouts. Yeah, he did call it body armor. And hence, in honor of him, it's been changed to Murph. Obviously, that is his name. And that's common for hero workouts, is just they're named after that person. And then they're usually, constructed or derived from maybe their favorite movements or significant dates around them, things like that. So it can vary in that way. But yeah, it was interesting. I decided to get some of the information about him, things that I didn't know or just wanted to confirm. And he, got the Medal of Honor for his actions in the war in Afghanistan. And what I didn't know actually was he was the first member of the United States Navy to receive this award since the Vietnam War. I didn't know that. Did you know that?
No, I hadn't heard that. No.
Yeah, so that was something that I didn't know. And then, obviously, he has, what was the movie? I'm misremembering, blanking here.
Yeah, so it was first originally a book, New York Times bestseller.
Yes.
And I believe the book and the movie had the same title, Lone Survivor.
Yes, thank you.
And I think you may have mentioned this already, but he's a Navy SEAL, and so the movie stars Mark Wahlberg. It's a great movie, really. I mean,
it really is.
It is, and so that's just a little bit of context. Do you have anything you want to add context, Cody, or do we want to kind of dive into maybe what advice would you have for somebody who has maybe never done this workout and is looking to try it out this year?
Well, yeah, I think to create the context, especially for the day, it is a day of remembrance, and this is one way we can honor those that sacrificed. And to me, that means, let me suffer when, my life's super easy, in the context. Like, I have a house, there's not a lot of challenges. So, I encourage people to push themselves within reason, right? You need to do it
No.
in a way that is safe for you, right? In terms of your current abilities, but let that be maybe a drive or a motivator for you to push yourself a little bit harder than maybe you typically would, put that intensity in it and get uncomfortable, right? So that's always kind of the first thing that I encourage you to do. Again, within context, if you don't know how to scale appropriately for you as an individual while still pushing yourself, obviously seek out a coach to help you with that. There's, again, like Ted said at the beginning, there's a ton of gyms. Almost every gym or every coach is going to run this workout probably on Memorial Day weekend, so it's not too hard to
Yeah,
find.
and some variation. Absolutely.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And it is, you kind of touched on something that I really, really wanted to hit, and that's how do you scale this workout? How do you attack this workout? There's lots of different levels of fitness and everybody wants to be part of the group and be part of the community on this day specifically because it is such a, I don't know, it's a workout that we all want to maybe take in part, or even if we don't really want to take in part, we just feel like it's the right thing to do. And especially on Memorial Day. Right. But, at the gym that I used to run, we ran into this challenge quite a bit where people would want to maybe, let's say, throw a vest on when they could only do a few pull-ups, even, without the vest, right?
That's not.
Or we'd have people who wouldn't want to scale back the pull-ups if, or the push-ups or the squats or the run, whatever it might be. And
100 pull-ups is no joke.
No, it's no joke. And this is a workout that will leave a mark. Like if you do this right, this workout leaves a mark and you're sore. And I really love the workout. It's actually one of my favorite workouts, but it's a great workout to do maybe once a year. And that's just my opinion. I don't know if I have any need or desire to do it more than that. But when it comes
if you
to
do
scaling,
it right once a year is enough.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to scaling, we would often just kind of have a conversation with somebody who I thought maybe needed to scale. And I just say, hey, obviously it's my job to kind of keep you safe as the coach and the owner of the gym. I don't want anything bad to happen to you. I would also always, say, hey, do we want to have a shitty 2 weeks of training following this workout?
Right. That was one thing that I would have a conversation too, is I don't want you to be sore for a week, or, you know what I mean? Like, and with like rhabdo too, is like that usually sprouts with high volume pull-ups for those that aren't ready, as well as sit-ups, which aren't in this particular workout, but that can be another area of like, hey, let's settle down here. Let's look at what you're able to do first.
Exactly.
Right.
And with that, I would never ever really hold anybody back though, unless I really thought it was if maybe their safety was on the line, right? But because I'm kind of with you, and you said it before too, like we do want you to push a little bit harder, and we do want you to maybe, I don't know if there's a better term for it other than suffer, right? Like this is a workout we want you to kind of just attack a little differently than you would a normal Monday through Friday workout at the gym, right? And so with that, like, just know that it's going to feel different, and there's not much hiding you can do. And we had members and a lot of people that would take close to 2 hours to finish this. And nobody's ever gotten hurt during it, right? At least in my experience, in my, overseeing. But that is something that if that's you and you're not really sure what to do, again, I don't know if I can answer that question for you. Am I supposed to do this close to RX or with weight or whatever that might be? But just know that, it is going to leave a mark.
Yeah. I would always, when I owned a gym and was coaching this event specifically, I'd always encourage like, hey, let's be around an hour, and let's use that kind of as our baseline for modification. So like if, obviously maybe pull-ups are an issue, we can ring row, we can do a barbell row, right? Any row variation is great. A lot of people scale to, banded pull-ups, maybe even jumping pull-ups. But again, we're getting into the, are we ready for that yet? Maybe conversation as well. So it's always going to be pretty contextual in that sense. One thing that you can do to scale outside of just modifying movements and things like that would be obviously volume. So reducing the amount of reps that you're doing, or even distance that you're running. People kind of forget about that one sometimes, or even changing the modality. So, if you want to participate, like, hey, again, it's just about like, hey, let's get in there, let's work. And running doesn't maybe jive with your knees or your hips or whatever. Rowing's a great option. I usually steer people away from biking because that's pretty rough on the legs, but it could be an option as well. And then obviously we can participate as well. And Ted, how many times have you done this workout? Do you know?
No, I would say 7, maybe 8. This might be my 8th time, somewhere in there. Yeah, I mean, quite a few times.
Yeah, I think you've beaten me. There's a few years that I was maybe out of town and I didn't do it for whatever.
Yeah, it is a popular travel weekend for sure. Yeah,
yeah, that does make it tough sometimes. But again, scaling it, like I was out of town, we didn't have a pull-up bar. I traveled with kettlebells, so I could do it on the road. But.
Yeah, and that was your pulling motion, right? You did bent over rows.
Yep.
And I will say too, before we change the subject too much, but like I just want to make sure that when it comes to, I think you brought up some good points for even maybe coaches that are listening to this, like just some other alternative options if you're coaching in, a Murph class or whatever, just some things to kind of keep in mind. And within those 7 to 8 different times that I've done Murph, I don't know if I've really ever done the same variation twice. Right? Like I've broken the reps up differently. I wore a vest. I didn't wear a vest. I did it partitioned. I didn't do it unpartitioned. If I look back, I think last year I just did a random order. I didn't have a vest. I did do strict pull-ups, but I think I got in the door from that first round. I did a bunch of squats to knock those out of the way, and then I kind of just filtered through the squats and pull-ups, knowing that I couldn't do a lot of pull-ups unbroken near the end of that workout, especially when we're talking strict. Previous year, I did unpartitioned with a vest, I believe. And obviously that was, that one's going to take the longest.
That's going to be, probably one of the harder variations, especially if you do it. Did you do it straight? You did it on partition, so you did it straight through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the hardest iteration of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because, they're just muscle fatigue, unlike anything else, right? And especially push-ups. If anybody's done true
push-ups
chest to floor, arms locked out at the top push-ups.
The worst one.
Yeah. So there's actually almost infinite amount of variations of the workout.
Well, we're going to do, you and I are both going to do the 50 rounds strict pull-ups this year, right?
Yeah, so exactly. Cody's saying here, we're going to do the mile run at the beginning, obviously, and then we're going to do 50 rounds of 2, 4, 6, right?
Yep, so 2 pull-ups, 4 push-ups, 6 squats.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually a variation that I've programmed for a lot of and just to be honest, we have a lot of females maybe in our gym who can't do a lot of pull-ups in a row, and so that's just kind of what we would program for them to kind of fight off that early pull-up fatigue. The push-ups still hit everybody the same. I mean, they're going to be tough, but keeping track of your rounds is almost the hardest part with that. I think my plan is to set up my phone, and if you have an iPhone, you just push the lap button, right? And so every lap, boom, you push lap. You just have to make sure your screen is set to stay on, right? But at 2, 4, 6, you should be moving through your rounds fairly fast enough that your phone shouldn't shut off. And then I think it'll actually end up saying 51 laps because I think it starts with a lap already in there.
Start with 1. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'd have to look.
So I think anyway, you'll be able to figure that out. But and again, kind of piggybacking off that previous point where I said I did, almost a different variation every time. And if you're not sure how to scale it, you're not sure how to attack it, just kind of always lean onto this lean onto, why am I doing this workout? Am I doing this workout to be competitive and get the fastest time possible? And that might be you, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Or am I doing it because it's on Memorial Day and it's to honor the workout and the individual and all those who have maybe lost their lives? If that's you, that should be the main goal, right? Like it's not how fast you can go. It's how true to each repetition you can be, and how, you can put yourself in a mental space, if even, on a fraction of a detail and a fraction of a level, as somebody who had to give their life for, fighting for our country. Yeah,
absolutely. Like just keeping that in the back of your head, but it should be fun as well. One of my favorite memories from Murph, this is from a few years ago. Me and one of my members at the time, Hesketh, we had a little friendly competition of, who could get it done fastest. And we did it straight through. I've never done a vest. I'd never felt that was appropriate for me. So I've never done it with a vest, but I've done it unpartitioned straight through. And so we had a little friendly competition. We, would kind of ruffle each other's feathers for, the month leading up. And we would do some extra stuff on the side to kind of prep for it. And, we could see who would get done who could do it faster. And, ultimately he went on his last mile run right before I did, and maybe even a couple minutes really. And I ended up being able to catch him on the run, and we ran in together.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Like holding hands.
Yeah.
And that's like one of my favorite memories, even from the gym, just because like they had all this build up to it, too, and then ultimately like we were able to kind of just finish together, and it was a really cool moment, at least for me.
Yeah, two good athletes pushing each other, and
absolutely,
yeah, it is cool. It is.
It just kind of builds that camaraderie too.
It is such a camaraderie building day, and it's such like just a great community day for gyms that are running this workout together.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of that too, go ahead, hit it, plug it. Yeah, I know you're going.
Plug it, yeah. You're gonna step on my plug. I was just gonna say that we at Practical Wellness are running a virtual Murph. Go ahead, Cody.
Yeah, and we're gonna run that virtual Murph, so you could do it at your home or at a gym, I suppose, as well, out of your garage, and you can modify it however you need. So just email us at info@practicalwellnesscoach.com if you're not a part of our newsletter. If you want to be, you can also email us and I'll get you on that. The link is on our newsletter. So if you got that, just scroll through it, hit that link, and that goes right to the Zoom session. We're going to do this so we're not going to do it on Memorial Day, but the day before. It'll be the 30th at 10 a.m. Central. So you guys absolutely, the more the merrier, can be a part of that. If you do plan on doing that and you're not sure how to modify, reach out and we'll help get you set up. Otherwise, if everyone needs help modifying on a Zoom call at the same time, that's not going to work very well. So do keep that in mind. But one thing I do want to say, if you are a gym listening to this out there, one thing that we've always done when we owned the gym was to choose a cause relevant to the day. So we would always collect donations for the VA hospital, the local VA hospital, and then we would donate that money every year. And I think that's an opportunity that maybe some people don't think about as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Great idea. And I'm just going to repeat that one more time. You said,
go ahead.
You said Saturday, May 30th at 10 a.m. Central Time. And again, that's for a lot of our clientele here at Practical Wellness. We'll be participating in that. But even if you're somebody who happens to listen to this and you're not with us, you can just jump in. It's free of charge. We'll help you out. We'll get you, if you're looking for that sense of community. Maybe you're even, like Cody said, a gym member, but maybe you can't make your gym's time that they're offering Murph and you still want to be part of something. Feel free to shoot us an email again. Like I said, info@practicalwellnesscoach.com. We'll get you set up with that link, that Zoom link. And then, it's just a great day. It's just a great day. It's a great workout. We were fortunate enough. There's a group of guys at the gym at Fort Collins CrossFit that brewed an actual specific couple batches of beer for our Memorial Day. And so that was just really, really cool. I mean, it's something that guys and gals really gear up for and are proud to be a part of. Yeah,
we would have, some food and kind of drinks and whatnot after as well. Just kind of hang out for an hour or two post workout. We're still all sweaty and stuff in a hot gym, but no one seems to mind too much. One thing that I've been having my clients, personal training clients do this year, is kind of prepping them a little bit more for the workout. So there is, this will be released, a couple weeks before.
About 2 weeks to the day almost. Yeah.
So I'd encourage you to, play around with it a little bit, see how it's going to feel. Just so, again, it's going to drive a little bit more of an appropriate stimulus for you on that day, right? You can see what's too easy and what's too hard. And Ted, you and I have done a couple of different variations and testers ourselves over the last month or so, just to see what it's going to feel like, and even just prep your body, as well.
For sure. Yeah. For me, I just know always the push-ups are my biggest limitation, right? I just find myself staring at the ground. It'll be interesting this time with the faster transitions, if that still is the case. I'm going to guess yes, probably. But it is fun. Like, for example, just to give listeners maybe an example too, you and I, what did we do recently? Was it 15 minutes? We just did our 2, 4, 6 for 15 minutes and just try to see how many rounds we could get. You with Run Club, we've been doing lots of extra running, so hopefully that's as squared away as it can be. Mm-hmm. I will say this is my goal, and this is almost embarrassing. I don't think I've ever done a Murph, as many as I've done, where I didn't at least walk a little bit during that second run, right? And so I'm always like trotted out on that second run and you're already breathing hard. You've done 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, and you're like, I got one more mile. Here we go. And then I always like find myself trotting, and I'm like, man, I think I could walk this fast because I'm running that slow. So that's my goal this year, is to actually be able to run the entire second mile, no matter how slow it is. Any other goals for Murph this year for you personally, Cody?
That's a good question. Beat Ted is always my number one goal. Rarely does it happen, and I write in my journal on the dates that it does, and I don't even have a half a page over the last 8 years of notes of that. So that's always my goal. But I don't know.
This is a great workout for Cody, by the way. He's being a little modest. He's great at body movements. He's great at running.
Let me look at my journal here. I beat you and Murph, I think 3 years ago. So, but because I think we had done the same variation that year, but I did beat you. Just so you know.
What variation was that? Do you remember?
That was unpartitioned, straight through, no vest.
No vest. Yep, I remember that. Yeah,
I beat you by a few minutes.
Dang push-ups.
Yeah,
I remember
sub 50.
Yeah, I remember coming in and the pull-ups felt so good after that run. I did like a set of 30, and then another set of 20, and then another set of 15, and then another set of 15. And then I got out and I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. I literally did my pull-ups in 4 minutes, whatever it was. And then I did 10 push-ups, and then I did another set of 10 push-ups, and then I did a set of 3 push-ups.
Yeah.
And I went 2s and 3s the rest
That's
of
what
the 200.
I'll do that too. I found that to actually be the most efficient, do 2s and 3s off the bat.
Yeah.
I always get done with the 100 pull-ups and I'm like, wow, I'm crushing it. I'm so fast.
It sucks you in for sure.
And then your 100 air squats and you're like, crap, what happened?
It is. It's a great workout. If you guys have any other questions, how to attack it, how to set up for it, if you're interested, like we said, in being part of the virtual Murph that we're offering via Zoom. Again, one more time, that email is info@practicalwellnesscoach.com. We'll send you the link. We'll get you set up. And then let us know if you have any limitations, restrictions that you want us to help you coach around, just so you're ready to go. And again, we're going to be hitting that May 30th at 10 a.m. Central Time. Anything to add, Cody?
Nope, that's it.
All right, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Practical Wellness Radio.